Welcoming Britaney Phillips, an analog astronaut, to Future Astronaut today. And I wanted to welcome her to the folks that will be viewing this video both now and down the road. She'll be able to talk to us about what it is to be an analog astronaut, what other things she's doing in space, in that space area, and some of her aspirations for the future. So anyway, with that, I'm going to let Brittany introduce herself, and then we'll just go through questions that either I have already comprised or other folks have might chat and send to me. So Brittany, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Lane, for having me in for Future Astronaut, asking me to come and talk to y'all. Like Lane said, my name is Britaney Phillips. I am in the Nashville, Tennessee area, and yeah, I'm an analog astronaut. That's pretty cool to say now. Um, but this August, I was able to participate in the Valoria 3 mission, which was a Mars mission at high seas. And high seas stands for Hawaii Space Exploration and Analog Simulation. And so high seas is located a little over 8,000 feet up on the side of Mauna Loa volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii. And they do both lunar and Mars missions. And these missions have a variety of purposes to cover. But essentially, what we do is we go through scenarios and situations that real astronauts have been in or could be put in to see and test out things to be able to help them. And so on my mission, we were a crew of 5. Our commander was Dr. Michaela Musilova, and she is currently the director of high seas as well. And she is an astrobiologist. And so she got to do some research taking samples on rocks that are very similar to what you would find on Mars or the moon, because, of course, both Mars and the moon were active volcanoes. Mars has active volcanoes, with Olympus Mons being the biggest volcano in the solar system. And so being able to test what we have here, geographically wise, and with the rocks, to see kind of, okay, these might be the things that we're going to find in these other areas. And then we had Alicia Jody. She was our operations officer, and she is a doctoral student at UCLA, and she is I want to get this right, she is doing planetary sciences and I think geology. Sorry, Alicia, if I just butchered that. But she was doing really, really, really cool research that I got to help with, using GPR, ground penetrating radar. And so we were taking that out and getting some data over, the different areas and the different types of volcanic rock that we had around us, and seeing, what lava tubes looked like with that. And that is something that is on rovers on Mars. And so that we're able to correlate that data as well. We had our bioengineering officer, Nils Avrish, and he is currently working at Stanford postdoctoral, and he was using different bioorganisms to make materials that could be used for the 3D printer or any of that stuff. So really help with in situ resource utilization. Our communications officer was Serafina Nance, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with her. She is incredible. But she was our communications officer. She is a doctoral student at Berkeley for astrophysics, and she specifically studies supernova ejecta. And so that is what her research was on our mission. She brought a LIBS, which is a laser-induced spectroscoper, and so she would use this, and she put it on the rock, and it would read out the elemental composition of that rock, and that ties directly to supernova ejecta. And again, that can be used to help understand different places throughout the solar system. And then me, I was our crew engineering officer. And so I was making sure all of our life support was working within the HAB because we were completely off the grid. All of our electricity was off of solar panels stored in batteries. And so I had to monitor that because we did have quite a few dust storms. And so just making sure that we were able to have the power that we needed because it needed to run the rest of our life support, including monitoring our CO2 levels, especially around meal times or when we were exercising, because that was a part of our daily requirements. Our CO2 levels will get high. And so making sure that we had enough energy to be able to vent that as well, because, yes, we were on the side of a volcano in Hawaii on Earth, but we did everything like we were on Mars. Down to the airlock, anytime we did an EVA, we were there. So making sure all of that was good, as well as with water, our water levels I had to maintain because we only had enough water for our time there. And so that included drinking water, cooking, bathing, which baby wipes were brought, and all of that. So in our research too, and so water consumption was really important. And like I said, we were on Mars, so whatever we had with us is what we had. We weren't getting any more. And so that is a great test right there to, prepare astronauts for being in a remote environment where you have to ration things, you have to monitor all of these because there's not somebody 5 minutes down the road that can help you. And so that was kind of really cool, the isolation part, and it was visually isolating too. We couldn't see any other living things.
Wow.
Even down to the flora and fauna. One, there was no fauna. I didn't see any animals, but the plants there were random ones that stuck their way up through the lava rocks, which was just really cool. But there wasn't green, and so I know when we got back to Earth, that was something that everybody was really looking forward to. We all just kind of like laid down in the grass and
going to a nice restaurant, I'm sure, as
oh
well.
yes,
Just like a regular astronaut when they come back from space. Let's get that
yes.
nice meal in.
And have
So,
the sun on you because
mhm.
anytime we were outside, we were in our spacesuits for our EVAs, and so having the fresh air, having the sun hit your skin directly, we were all like, oh, and that was just 2 weeks.
Wow.
I can't imagine what it's like coming back from a 6 month
I
tour
it,
on the ISS or
yeah,
our future Martian missions that are going to be years in duration.
right, right. So how did you become an analog astronaut? What was the steps? What was the process to become involved with your particular mission?
Yes, so I first heard about analog astronauts actually through reading Kelly Girardi's book, Not Necessarily Rocket Science. Um, and that book kind of spoke to me because I don't have a STEM degree currently. I'm in the process of doing that. But I'm an engineering teacher, but I just have my teaching license. And so having a non-STEM degree and being able to break into the aerospace industry is my dream. And
Mhm.
so reading her book was very inspirational, but she talked about her experiences with analog missions and how that really helped her. And so I started looking them up. And high seas, I mean, I'd never been to Hawaii. That sounded so cool. And just the way that they run their facility and everything, I wanted to be a part of that. And so uh, I looked up on high seas, and there was an application process where you have to send in your resume, as well as sending in some research ideas, because there are missions where you are fulfilling a certain mission for a client specifically, or um, and even with those, sometimes you have downtime to where you can do your own research, or they're fully research oriented missions. And so with that, you write up your proposals, send those all in, and just hope that you're what a mission needs.
Mm.
And I was actually a backup crew member for a mission earlier last year, but didn't need to go. And so I was asked last summer if I was ready for a prime crew, and I'm pretty sure I cried. I was so excited, and so yeah, it sounds easy, but like really just be confident in yourself and have a passion, because that's really what comes through. And I think passion is really what's going to help um, advance us in science, because like in Kelly's book, it takes more than just the engineer, more than just the physicist, the astrologer, the astrophysicist, all of that. We need somebody to be able to share these stories. So we need photographers, we need journalists, we need all these different people to be able to inspire and encourage and help drive this thing that we're all so passionate about. So really just show your passion.
That's cool. That's cool. So why don't you tell us, so you got the phone call,
Hmm.
and then why don't you just walk us through your mission from when you boarded the plane in Nashville, I assume, and
Hmm.
just walk us through when did you actually enter Mars, and then take us through the mission, and then on your way home and what your thoughts were.
Yes. So actually, before the mission, we had some stuff that we had to do. And a lot of it was just getting to know our crew members, because we were all pulled from different areas, again based off of what mission the mission needed. And so we had a few Zoom calls before that, just to kind of uh, see, get to know each other, see if there were any dietary restrictions, or any of that we needed to prepare for. So a lot of pre-mission prep in that sense. And then it was what I called launch day, when I flew out of Nashville and down to Kona, Hawaii. Um, that was that was an incredible day. The experiences that I had just in that travel alone were incredible, and getting to share, because you always want to chit chat with people. Where are you going? What are you doing? And you say, "Oh, I'm headed to Mars." They look at you kind of like you're weird, but they're like, "I had no idea." And then so I flew down. Let's see, on a Wednesday, and then our mission. So Thursday I had off, um, and then Friday is when all of our mission stuff started. So we met up we got to go and got in our shuttle, which was a van, and went for lunch. So we went all the way up the mountain, the volcano, and went to high seas, and it was incredible. We opened the door and got to look in, and we saw an airlock. That was it. There was nothing. We're like, okay, we see this dome, and we're like, okay, as soon as we seal this door, we're in simulation. And so we all got a nice deep breath and closed the door
Fresh
and
air.
started our airlock. And so we had to go from the Earth pressure to what a Martian pressure would be. And so we had to stay in there for about 3-ish minutes for everything to pressurize correctly. And then we opened the door and we were home. We joked about it being Dome Sweet Dome.
Yes.
But walking in, it kind of felt like going to Disney World the first time, maybe, where you're just like, because you've seen pictures of it, and now you're actually experiencing it, and you're like, this is incredible. And it was much bigger than I thought it was. And so we go in and we get a tour of all the areas and get to pick our rooms. And so once we picked our
Like your
rooms,
sleeping quarters, right?
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that
So
your
we each
private
got our
room.
own individual sleeping quarter, which was very nice.
Hmm.
Um, and then we had a meeting with our commander, and
Hmm.
she went through just kind of all the safety stuff, that and the basic stuff that we needed to know about the habitat. And then I got to work with making sure all of our life systems were good to go. And then we had to do an inventory of all of the stuff that we had, um, especially food, to make sure that we had what we needed so we didn't have to call for a resupply. Because again, we're in Mars. We're at a minimum 6-7 months from getting anything. And
And that'd be
so
pretty rough with a 2-week mission that
it
need to
would.
wait 6 months.
It would. So
Yeah.
we did our inventory. That way, we knew what we had and what would need to be restocked for future missions. Uh, and then we made our first meal because it was probably about 5 o'clock at night by this time. And uh, I'm a go-getter. I like to be busy. I like to be helpful, and so I was like, I'm gonna cook the first meal. I'm gonna preface this with saying my husband does all the cooking at home, and so we're like, oh, let's make spaghetti. That's easy, something quick. Uh, I made enough spaghetti for one person, and we had 5 people. So I pretty much from then on said I'll be on dish duty from here on out because my cooking skills aren't the best. Um, and so we had our first meal, had our first night, and then the next day just got to work, because that's what we were all there for, to work. And learning all the different reports and stuff that we had to do. Each day we had to turn in a science report over what we went on, and then, or what we did for our research. And then each person, based off of their particular position, had a report that they would need to do. So every day I do my engineering report, which was monitoring the power levels, CO2, water, all of our equipment, especially for EVAs, making sure that all of that was working because the next day our first EVA started. And so our first EVA was Michaela, Serafina, and Alicia. And then I was HABCOM, or Habitat Communication, which is kind of similar to like a CAPCOM, um, on mission control at Houston. And so all of the communications that we had, I had to write down in this report, and that would be something else that we would submit. Um, and then, uh, yeah, we actually did have a mission control, which is run by volunteers, and they're extraordinary. But we would have to send all of our stuff to Capcom
Mm.
then, and they would go over our reports, ask any further questions, and they would be the ones that we would submit our EVA requests to, and all of that. They would have to make sure that the routes that we had planned, and we have to go through with GPS and all of that to, so they would always know where we were anytime we were outside of the habitat. To weather, making sure that there weren't any dust storms coming in, and um, I mean, it was so real. Um, like I said, we, as soon as we shut that door the first day, we were on Mars, and so um, email was our only form of communication,
Mm.
and there were time delays with our emails.
Okay.
Uh, and
I was
so,
wondering about that. Is did they actually build in? We're not like it's not like the moon, right? If you go to the moon, you can
exactly.
actually nearly have real time conversations with the
Yeah,
Earth.
it's like 3 to 8 seconds, I think, for the moon,
Yeah.
whereas Mars, it takes 8 minutes to get there and like about 8 minutes to get back. And so we had about 20-minute comm delays.
Mm.
And so um, we had to make sure that during our specific window for Capcom that we were getting all of our stuff turned in, to be able to make any corrections or change anything, especially with uh, any hazardous weather coming in, any of that. Um, and that was pretty much every day, going through all those things. Every day we had spacewalks, we were doing our research, we were doing our reports, uh, but we also spent a lot of time getting to know one another,
Hmm.
uh, and not just because we were five people stuck in a dome, uh, but because we each came from different places, and each brought these different stories, these uh, different perspectives, and so that was really cool, to just get to know other people, and their path to where we're at, and their story, and we were able to help each other in that sense as well, through being able to give advice or help with anything, especially when it comes to getting your foot in the door with this space industry, because we were all there because we all want to go to space. That is all our dream. And so um, we became very, very, very close through that. And I think that's really important too, especially for long duration missions, because you don't want to have any of that negativity stuff. And so I feel like we were really lucky because um, we all got along so well, and I mean, we still talk all the time, and um, are planning trips and stuff to get together, and just continue to cheer on each other and support each other as we continue on with our dreams. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, I can see how the crew um, dynamic is probably the most important thing whether it's on the International Space Station or at high seas or Mars missions at a
Yes.
minimum, even if you take what they're proposing um, from NASA, is over a year long, where the same
Hmm.
crew would be together for over a year. And then if you look at what SpaceX is proposing, their missions would be several years long before uh, the astronaut would go to Mars, spend the time at Mars, and then have the window to return home. So I can see how that makes is very vital to any type of mission where you're living in an um, enclosed habitat. Um, so you had a lot of free. So all your food was there already. All your supplies was
Yep.
pre-positioned. All your water. It's tell us some of the experiments that were going on during your mission.
Yeah. So,
I
oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So yeah, with all of our supplies and stuff, that was all already there. And our food was all freeze dried. So that was something kind of really fun to get used to and experiment. And um, Alicia and Serafina love to cook, and so they kind of took the reins on that, and um, they made some really good dishes. And we had like a
Wow.
rating scale to see, what we'd like.
Which
And
ones you'd repeat?
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And so they were really good at mixing, just whatever we had in there and coming up with really good dishes. Um, it was also a lot of it was hard on our digestive systems being
Mm.
freeze dried, so we had to make sure that we were taking our vitamins and all of that stuff. But yeah, to speak on our daily research, um, like I said, Nils was working on creating some biomaterials. And so he had his little biomes that he would be in the lab working on. And then a lot of Alicia and Serafina's research would be actually researching papers that they had brought along with them about different, um, for Serafina with supernova ejecta and the makeup of that, and where, if it has this element, this is where it came from, and so on and so forth. And so when she would come back from her EVA with all of her data, she'd be going through and researching with that. And with Alicia and her ground penetrating radar, she would be doing the same thing. And both of them had some coding that they were doing with their programs and all of that for compiling all of their data. And then for me, the research that I had, I actually brought some really small hydrogen fuel cells. And they were solar hydrogen fuel cells. So they used a really small solar panel, and we connected it to, I connected it to a really small fuel cell. And what that would do is when we place it out in the sunlight, the solar panel would actually provide the energy for electrolysis to happen within the fuel cell. And so electrolysis, what that would do is I'd put water in the fuel cell, and the electrolysis would split water into the hydrogen molecules and the oxygen molecules. And then from there, we would use the hydrogen molecules as a fuel. And we do this in a lot of different places with uh, there's hydrogen fuel cell cars. We can make power systems that run solely off hydrogen. And so my main focus was really looking at that um, in situ resource utilization. Um, and that can be used anywhere, just what we have and how we can use the materials that we have, or the things that we have in each situation. Like right now in Perseverance, there's Moxie, which is taking methane or methane and turning it into fuel, and all of that. And so that was really what my focus was on.
Cool. I noticed that you also had some biological experiments on the station as well, and trying to grow some plants and things like that. Um,
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us what you, well, at least what I understood from the mission that you use for fertilizer for the plants.
Yes. So we had a couple different things that we were doing to grow food. We had a lettuce grow tower, and so that
Hmm.
was all hydroponics.
Oh,
And
cool.
so that was really cool. And I got to set that up, and um, we kind we kind of had a joke because some of the starters didn't really have a good travel through our launch, and so I would give them positive affirmations every day to help them grow, and um, and yeah, that kind of became a small little joke within us.
Mm.
But yeah, so we had our lettuce grow tower that had a variety of greens on there, and then we also had microgreens that were set up in one of our two windows every day. And that way we could get some sunlight. And I can tell you that at like day 12, I think, day 10 or day 12 was the first day that we had fresh food. And we were all like, that the mental boost that fresh food gives you is incredible. And we grew it too, so we have some pride in that. But yeah, so for fertilizer, previous missions had been doing tests on using human hair as a fertilizer,
Hmm.
and so we got to use some of what they had done with their testing for fertilizer for our foods as well. We actually didn't use any of that fertilizer on food that we ate, um, but we are just testing, continuing to test the growth and how that fertilizer made an impact on food growth.
Did you grow any peppers like they did on the space station and have tacos? No.
I wish. I wish. Oh, yes. That was like the first thing, real food I had is I had some fish tacos when we got back. I love tacos. And so, no, I was super jealous of Megan's peppers
Mm,
that she was growing and got to make tacos with up on the space station.
mm.
Um, but yeah, we were a little limited on that. But it's still like having that fresh food was incredible.
So, what do you see as your next steps? You obviously want to go to space. So, what do you think of commercial space? Is that something you're interested in? And and do you see something like like a question we had? Do you see something similar, inspiration for, or something like that in your future, or what do you see as your next step?
I would love to do that. I think that the commercialization of space is a good thing.
Hmm.
I think that being able to drive down the costs um, of the whole thing, from launch to even testing. And I look at it in the sense of, like the International Space Station, where it's an orbiting laboratory. And, they are doing stuff that directly impacts the Earth. Yes, we're looking at stuff for space travel and long duration space flight and how it affects the human body and improving that. But a lot of the stuff that they're doing are uh, to help us here on Earth. And so I think that that is extremely important because yes, this is our home, and this is the only one that we have right now. And so being able to drive down the cost of research to be able to help our planet, I think, is incredible. Um, as well as with the commercialized crew and the commercial astronauts or the space tourists.
Hmm.
um, Absolutely. I mean, watch any of these launches, with the Virgin Galactic and then with the multiple Blue Origin launches that we've had I want to say this year, but it's 22 now,
I
last year.
know.
Um, just look at their reactions,
Mhm.
after launch. I
Mhm.
mean, if anybody saw William Shatner and did not cry, I'm not gonna cry just thinking about it. Did
Mm.
not cry with his reaction. Like, we all need to see that. We all need to see just how alone we are and how fragile we are, to be able to help our earth. And so, if I could do that
Mhm.
in a heartbeat, I would love to. And that is something that I'm going to be working towards. Is my dream is to go to space, and I say my dream, but I know for a fact that one day I will go to space. And so, whether that be um, as a tourist, to be able to do my own research in that short suborbital flight, or even an orbital flight, or actually getting to go and walk on the moon. I would love to do that and use it to inspire the future. Being an educator, um, my passion is getting that next group ready. I love sharing my experiences with them, to let them know what all is available out there for them. And so that is something really cool that I feel, I totally want to do.
Cool. Now, who are your heroes? One of
Oh,
who are your heroes? Obviously, you have a hero that was a predecessor of yours at High Seas, but who are your other heroes that you look up to?
oh, absolutely. I mean, all of the analog astronauts that have gone, that have gotten to do the missions before, I really look up to, because, all of us, we all have such this big passion for space. And so definitely they are. And then, Dr. Proctor being an analog astronaut and then becoming a real astronaut is just like, you know, uh, her inspiration for Mission was just incredible, in so many ways. But I think what really got me going, um, was, oh, I mean, my stepdad, growing up, he's the one that I would watch launches with. I grew up in the shuttle era, and so, we would always watch the shuttle missions, and that was incredible. And then, I think I was in the fourth grade the first time I got to go to Kennedy Space Center, and it was incredible. I think I have a picture of it somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I was blown away. And then getting to follow, female astronauts that were, making a difference and paving the way. I think if I were to narrow it down, I would have to say, um, my top three heroes, or I like to call them Sheroes, would be Peggy Whitson.
Mhm.
I'm from Iowa as well, so having that farm girl, um, become an astronaut, and not only just become a an astronaut, but become a record holder and such a trailblazer in the way that, she has done incredible things and so many things. And, the hours of EVAs, the days in space, all of that is just incredible. So that has really pushed me to, want to break down those barriers. Also, um, kind of along the same lines with that would be Eileen Collins being
Mhm.
the first female commander of a shuttle mission. And Peggy, she was the first female commander of the space station. So just breaking these glass ceilings, I think, is incredible. And then, lastly, and these are in no particular order because I think that they are all incredible women, but Barbara Morgan. If you're not familiar with who Barbara Morgan is, she was Krista McAuliffe's, alternate for the Teacher in Space mission. And so she went through all of the training and everything alongside of Krista, and was there the day of the unfortunate accident.
Mhm.
Um, and she wanted to fulfill Krista's dream of teaching from space. But right after that, the Teach in Space program was terminated. And so they told her that if she wanted to uh, go to space, become an astronaut, that she had to do it the same way that everybody else was. So she went back to school. She
Mhm.
went back to school and got a STEM degree, and excuse me, and became an astronaut, and um, got to fly in space and do some of Krista's lessons that she had planned for when she had her mission. And so um, those women are just incredible. I look up to them so much for so many reasons.
Um, one thing that you talked about was the High Seas site, which is on the Big Island of Hawaii,
Mhm.
on the side of one of the big volcanoes. I think it's the dormant volcano right now. It's not the dormant volcano; it's the active volcano.
It is an active volcano.
Ooh.
Yeah, so the big volcanoes on the Big Island, obviously is Kilauea.
Mhm.
That's the most active one. Um, and then there is Mauna Kea, where
Mhm.
the observatories it on the
Mhm.
very top the observatories are, and that is the dormant volcano. And we actually Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa look at each other.
Mhm.
And so every day we would look out our window and we would see our Olympus Mons, which was Mauna Kea. But yeah, Mauna Loa is considered an active volcano. Um, there, the way that we went through like geography lessons and everything because we were all just super fascinated with it. But there was an earthquake and it shifted the amount of lava to, or I guess in that case, magma to from one volcano kind of to the next. And so the majority of it is at Kilauea right now,
Mhm.
but it is still considered active. And we were there um, right as Kilauea was beginning to erupt, actually, towards the end of our mission. And it was funny because we were all like, man, we had really weird dreams last night. And we were thinking about um, because of the altitude. But no, we were going through some earthquakes that we could, or Mars quakes that we could feel from all of that activity that was occurring on the island. So that was pretty cool. But we definitely felt safe. Our habitat was right along this um, thousands year old fissure. And we did some EVA in lava tubes where these glorious tubes underneath the volcanic rock that lava flowed through, uh, and so yeah, it was incredible, and just seeing and learning about all the different types of lava that were around us and how it was made, and then how old it was, and it was just incredible.
So, I have a question from someone in the UK, and why don't you tell us about the various locations where people can experience being an analog astronauts? I know there's the one in Hawaii, but there's also other locations in the world, and I think you probably know them better than I do. Go ahead.
Yes, and even the one in Hawaii, it's international. It's open to anyone. I know right now with all the travel restrictions, that can be a little difficult. Uh, but um, the our crew was made up of someone from Slovakia, someone from the UK, someone from Germany, and so you can be international, but there are some overseas as well. Lunares is one that I've been looking into going into, and that one is in Poland. So I would suggest, yeah, just do research because there are a lot. There are multiple ones here in the United States, but as space, especially commercial space, grows, I think that there are going to be more companies and more places, more institutions uh, doing analog missions to be able to, go through the protocols and the steps for any of the research that they're wanting to do, or to help prepare training stuff for their astronauts. And so definitely look into it because there are places, and they're all open to everyone. Just have that passion.
Awesome. And then someone asked about children. What do you say to young children who are dreaming about going to space, and what advice do you give to younger kids at this point?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I see it says Astro Liz Labs. We actually are part of our mission is a part of one of her videos. Um,
Ah,
and so that's really that she's really special to us. But um, I mean, I would just say follow your dreams, and always look up. Um, the stars and watching the shuttle launches are what got me hooked. But there's so much more out there, and so just be curious. Um, Continue to learn more about space because um, it's expanding. That we're not gonna one day be like, oh, there's nothing left for us in space. Um, the opportunities are truly limitless, and so um, just have fun and don't be afraid to nerd out. I'm a huge nerd, and I love it. I
that's
love it.
cool.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. The only other things that I can think of is because, wow, I've learned a lot. Um, I,
Well,
you know,
good.
I know about Dr. Sun Proctor and her experiences, but it's cool that you can actually um, help us towards the mission to Mars, or towards the mission, towards the Artemis missions, and
Yes.
what you accomplish. Um, what would you tell um, someone out there that is really at this point wanting to uh, get into get into space? What they should do? What let's say they're in high school, and what would you tell them? Tell a high school student about what to do.
Um, Well, really, I mean, it depends on what you want to do in space. Like I said, going back to Kelly's book, um, it's a mission that everybody can be a part of, and so if you're wanting to do research, if you're wanting to build rockets and do that stuff, get a STEM, get into STEM programs, and with the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, because those are really important because that's how we get there. That's how these missions are able to happen. Uh, but also now, especially with commercialized space and for all that is bringing, you don't have to be an engineer, because with especially with the Artemis mission, and future Mars missions, and even the current ones on the International Space Station, if you look at what they're doing, they're all telling a story. They're all sharing what they are learning and what they're seeing. And one of my dreams is to be able to look down at the earth, and so seeing all these pictures just kind of fill me with more fuel added for that fire to want to go there. And so um, everybody is needed for that. And so really just you know, obviously everybody has their own um, like niche of what they like in space, whether it be a certain planet, a moon, um, the stars, supernova, whatever it is. Um, just do as much learning about that as you can, because really you can take your passion and apply that to your other passions, and really tie it all together and be able um, to make space for all, because space is for everyone.
Wow, that's cool. What I like on behalf of Future Astronaut, I'd like to thank you um, for doing this interview. I think you've been very informative to anyone that's considering being an analog astronauts, and your passion just overflows. It's just so exciting, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to spend with us and be able to tell people about how to do this and what what you got out of it. Um, Happy New Year to
Happy
you.
New Year.
And
Yes.
do you have anything you want to say in closing? And then we'll go ahead.
Just thank you for having me, and really just always shoot for the stars, because like I said, the opportunities are limitless, and space is for everyone. So go for it.
Yes, I do think it's kind of exciting to live in what I call the second dawn of space age, right? They
Hmm.
everyone that the generation before got to see Apollo, and now we're getting
Hmm.
to see a lot more excitement going on in space. So thank you for
Absolutely.
joining us, and have a very wonderful day, and stay warm, I guess, in Nashville today.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye bye.